The first keynote speaker of the 5th Interdisciplinary Conference of Management Researchers 2020 is one of the foreign delegates joining with us virtually today, Professor Li-Hsin. To introduce this esteemed personnel, I cordially invite Dr. Sarath Munasinghe, Head Department of Tourism Management, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka.
Ivan. Greetings to the 5th ICMR from the Department of Tourism Management, and greetings to the national and international audience of the conference. I take great pleasure in introducing Assistant Professor Li Chen, the first keynote speaker of the conference. Assistant Professor Li Chen is currently the Acting Program Director of the International Masters Program of Tourism and Hospitality, National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism, Taiwan. And she has earned her Doctor of Philosophy from the Clemson University of USA by exploring the key determinants of bicycle share program used in leisure context. And also she has earned her Master of Education and Bachelor of Education degrees from the National Taichung University of Education, Taiwan. Apologies if there is any mispronunciation because some of these terms are foreign to me. And also, Professor Chen is serving as the Associate Editor of the Journal of Responsible Tourism Management, and also Editorial Review Board member of Asian Journal of Business Research. Further, during her career as a researcher, she has been awarded with a number of awards and scholarships and grants. I will mention a few of them. For example, in 2020, May 2020, she was awarded with the Best Paper Award by the International Conference of Sport, Leisure, and Hospitality Management, Taiwan. And also, she was awarded with the Best Paper Award in 2018 by the same conference. And also in 2017, she was awarded with the Best Paper Award by the Annual Forum and Conference of Chinese Tourism Management Association, Taiwan. With this brief introduction, I would like to cordially invite Professor Li Chen to deliver a speech on the topic of vulnerability and resilience. What do we learn from tourism and hospitality research? Professor Li Chen, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. I was wondering, can you hear me clearly? Excuse me? Can I go ahead and start my presentation?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, so can you see my PowerPoint slides now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have 20 minutes to present this huge topic, but first of all, I would love to thank ICMR 2020 and also the Faculty of Management Study at Sabarag.
Yes, madam, we can clearly hear you.
Sabarag, excuse me? How about now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Sorry, the connection is not very stable. But anyway, I want to thank you for all the organizers to invite me to be the keynote speaker at this conference. I wish this conference a successful one. And I also hope that on behalf of the International Masters Program at NKU HT Taiwan, I would love to seek for further collaboration with your esteemed institution in the future. A little bit about myself. Thank you for Dr. Saraba's the introduction, for your kind introduction. Now I'm serving as the acting program director of the International Master Program of Tourism and Hospitality at NKU Taiwan. So if you are interested in getting a master degree in Taiwan, feel free to contact me after this talk. And as I mentioned earlier, I also serve as in several editorial boards in international journals. And recently we have a special issue call for paper at International Journal of Culture, Tourism and Hospitality Research. Unfortunately, the deadline is approaching. It's 3 days later. But however, if you have a complete manuscript regarding to coffee, tea, and tourism, please submit to our journal, and you can find more information on the journal's website. All right, my research interest is mostly in tourism. So I'm interested in tourism marketing management and also tourist behavior and experience design, tourism experience. So if you share the same research interest with me, and I'm happy to collaborate more with the scholars in Sri Lanka in the future. All right, so my presentation topic today is vulnerability and resilience of the tourism industry. What do we learn from past research? So basically, I will cover 3 main points here. The first section, I would love to share some information and data from UNWTO to address the challenges that we face today in COVID-19 era. And especially I want to address the vulnerability of the tourism industry. And the second section, I would love to share our research finding. My research team and I just finished one research. We investigate how past infectious disease, how past pandemic influence the tourism industry, and we hope that we can learn from the past evidence to address the crisis management better in the current pandemic. And finally, I would love to show you some innovative strategy that our industry just adapt and improve recently, and I hope those strategy can inspire business owner in Sri Lanka as well. Okay, COVID-19. So COVID-19 has a huge influence on the industry without any doubt. We know that it began in January 2020, and because the Spring Festival holidays, a lot of Chinese tourists travel around the world, and so it spread to most part of the world now. And we are not sure when will it end. A lot of experts say that it probably will with us for a while. We need to probably adapt to this new normal, new lifestyle. And unfortunately, COVID-19 has really stopped the world tourism. A lot of places like Venice in Italy, as you can see on the slides, before 2019, it's actually suffered from over-tourism. A lot of tourists visit these cities with cruise ship. And then now it's actually no tourism at all. So it's created a lot of unemployment problems for our partners. I want to share some data that UNWTO just released. They published this World Tourism Barometer in October this year. It says that international tourist arrivals declined 70% in the first 8 months of 2020. So means that there's a huge business loss in the past months. And especially in our region, Asia and the Pacific, is the first region to suffer such negative impact. We experienced 79% decrease in the international arrivals. And according to the UNWTO Confidence Index, all the consumer confidence is really at the record lows. And a lot of panel experts, very unfortunate, predict that a rebound in international tourism will be by the third quarter of 2021, and a return to pre-pandemic 2019 level will be 3 years later. So we still have a long time to go to think about how should we plan and face the uncertainty in the past 3 years. So the major reason contribute to such lows, I would say, is the travel restrictions. We define a really high association between travel restriction and the decline of international tourism market. As you can see on the slides, on the left-hand side, you see in April and May, let's say 82% and 81% destination, they closed their border. So this is, we find a huge correlation between the travel restriction and the tourism decline. So basically, once the government implements travel restriction, we immediately see the international tourism decline immediately. So as a government agency, you need to think, should you do the travel restriction? Because once you implement such technique, it will immediately influence the industry a lot. And the next part, the COVID-19 is actually influenced the air travel a lot as well. According to data from IOTA, it shows 70% decline in the past 8 months. And also for the international passenger demand measures in revenue passenger kilometers, it foreclosed 90% year on year in August. So that's really like huge impact on our industry. So obviously from all those figures and numbers there, we can observe there's a characteristic of the tourism industry is the vulnerability. So our industry is really vulnerable, easily to be influenced, affected, disrupted by an external force, for example, like infectious disease. However, my research team and I really want to look at how the past pandemic influenced the travel industry and how the travel industry learned from the past infectious disease. And we hope that the evidence that we gather from past can really inform us now so we can better to accommodate the needs in the future. So basically we look at 6 different pandemic, which includes foot and mouth disease, SARS, H5N1, H1N1, Ebola, and MERS. And we actually do a systematic literature review of crisis response. We'd love to know how has past research on pandemic evolved, especially in tourism and hospitality area. And what are the different strategy and responses the academia, government, and the industry sectors have adopted over the past 20 years. So we identify 923 articles in Web of Science database and also 1,987 articles in Scopus database. And we implement Prisma systematic reviews and meta-analysis technique and best fit approach to narrow it down into 63 articles, which contains all information we need, include infectious disease and the tourism and hospitality, such keywords. And the framework that we use is triple helix framework. So using this framework, we are not just focused on the research trend, but we can also analyze how the industry and the government react to the pandemic. All right, let me show you the result we have. This is a descriptive analysis of the included studies. As you can see on the table, the left-hand side table, the most study focus on SARS, okay? And if you see the left-hand side corner table, you will see that the majority of study conducts in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, Singapore. basically is in Asian region. And UK shares some studies. I think it's because of foot and mouth disease. You can see the table on your right-hand side. It's like it shows that studies are mostly done within a closer time frame of each pandemic. So means that after the pandemic, scholars they don't really care about this topic anymore. And this is really giving us a worrying sight because after the pandemic, actually we should analyze the long-term reaction of the industry to this pandemic. But however, unfortunately, researchers, they tend to publish research in a pandemic time. And we can observe the same phenomena in COVID-19 now. There's a huge publication on COVID-19, especially in tourism and hospitality since the outbreak of COVID-19. But we hope that probably we need to keep tracking those trends 10 years later, 20 years later, to see how our industry and governments really formulate their crisis management plans and to better address the pandemic in the future. Okay, and from the past literature, we identified 10 major themes in pandemic. And as I mentioned before, we use triple helix framework. So we categorize all these 10 themes into academia, industry, and government categories. All right, so let's see the major theme from academia research. A lot of tourism and hospitality scholars try to look at the relationship between travel restriction and economic impacts. And we can see that some criticisms has been proposed about overreaction and the effectiveness of travel bans on containment of pandemic. Okay. However, there's some other scholars, they value the role of the air travel industry and the value and the impact of travel restrictions. Another major themes in academic research is risk, fear, and consumer behavior. So it means that the researchers, they are not just focused on economic impact, we also focus on psychosocial effects that those infectious disease bring to the travel behavior. And we tend to see, observe behavioral change and generate fear after the pandemic. So this is the second major topics that from past academic research. As for government, I would say the first identified theme is prevention, education, and preparedness. Unfortunately, in a lot of study and research, we identified that most of the government, they are really lack of preparedness in face of pandemic. So they are not really actively to lead the crisis management. Actually, they are passive to react, to response. So that's why every pandemic result in a huge economic loss and huge business loss. So we hope that these evidence that we gather from the past literature can really inform government now to try to think about how to they complete the crisis management plan better. And after the pandemic, a lot of government, they try to provide some information to promote alternative activity, for example, like outdoor recreation. We can also observe this promotion, this advertisement in COVID-19 era now. Another major issue is travel bans and border closure as well as collaboration with WHO, and we think that's very important. As the government can collaborate and coordinate with the health organization, local travel associations, and media reporting and international financial aids, and somehow they can turn the local tourism business more successful than other places. And finally, government tend to implement incentive and subsidies. So for example, they will try to shift the marketing from international traveler to domestic tourism. And they will try to implement tax reductions, financial aid, especially for small and medium tourism enterprise. So those techniques we can also observe not just in past pandemic, but also at the current COVID-19 pandemic. So for the industry, the first measure they tend to use a lot is physical environment enhancement. So they tend to improve sanitary and hygiene, especially in hotel setting. And they will have this improvisation infrastructure, such as changing their name, renovating the buildings. And as for social distancing, it's not new. It's not just the COVID-19 products. It actually, in the past pandemic, a lot of facilities, they will try to close partial area of their building to address social distancing these issues. And also, they will try to implement crisis management. However, based on the past evidence, we actually observe two different types of business. One type of business, they are really just like the government, lack of preparedness, and then eventually they will lose their business. But we also observe some hotel brands and some travel agencies. They learn from the past pandemic and develop a better and very comprehensive crisis management plan. And eventually, after the pandemic, there will be their business will booming a lot. So this is two type of business that we observe from past literature. And for industry, they also will implement a lot of revenue diversification techniques, such as cost restraining of native revenue, and they try to collaborate with a lot of different enterprise. So for example, like luxury hotel, they collaborate with a private airline company. They will promote luxury products, use a private airplane to take luxury tourists to visit the luxury hotel. They are trying to do the revenue diversification, and they will also try to expand new markets. For example, they turn in hotel room into restaurant. The last one, we don't want to see that a lot, but unfortunately, it was commonly adopted in hotel and tourism industry. It's human resource modification. So unpaid leave for vacation, reducing salaries and working hours, employment dismissal. So those techniques is really frequently seen in past pandemic. However, there's another more positive technique is cross training. So for hotel company, they will try to do cross training for their employees. So after pandemic, they will have a really high quality of employees, and they will have a skill set that the hotel needs. All right, so based on the past literature, my research team and I really want to say that despite of the undesirable outcome of past pandemic, the future for travel post-COVID-19 remains bright. So because the ability of the tourism industry to recover and bounce back from crisis has been tried and tested several times. You see the decline during the pandemic, but you can immediately observe the bounce back after the pandemic. So it's really, we can have the confidence on our industry. Now, I would love to share some innovative strategy that our industry just developed in the past months. So you can see that how resilient our industry is. For example, in food and beverage sectors, we see a lot of restaurants, they start to hire robots and they start to upgrade their kitchens. So they include service automation. So for example, the robots make pizza for the customer now. And we observe a really good food delivery technology in this COVID-19 era. And now we are using virtual conference. We are in the virtual conference, right? So I'm in Taiwan now, but I can still connect to people in Sri Lanka. So we observe there are a lot of online events and festivals happening right now. is more than ever. And also for the event and management company, they innovate their products. For example, people offer these balcony concerts for hotel customers, visitors, and they can stay in the balcony and still enjoy the music. And for the air travel industry, there's a lot of technology has been introduced in this industry. For example, in the Pittsburgh International Airport, they are starting to use robots to clean airports. And then they introduce UV cleaning system to clean the cabin. And for the laboratories, a lot of companies, they start to introduce touch these laboratories. And we also observe that self-check-in service become very, very popular now. As for hotel industry, you can see that they try to change their business model based on this pandemic. For example, hotels start to promote staycation. They want domestic tourists stay in their region, but still enjoy the sense of vacation. And also people try to modify hotel rooms, turn into restaurants. So because we are still want to have this eat out experience, but during the pandemic, how can we do? All right, so how about we book a hotel room and stay there, and we still can enjoy the cuisine, the food in the hotel room, and keep social distancing. And others will be like a robot, butler, and voice assistants. This technique has been introduced in Dubai and other travel destinations. And for tour company, they introduce virtual reality and virtual tour. Okay, so this is really some phenomena that we cannot observe before pandemic. So I would say that in addition to vulnerability of tourism industry, actually our industry demonstrates resilience as well. So according to data 2015, resilience is categorized by the capacity of an industry to withstand external pressures, to respond positively to external changes, and to adjust and to learn. So based on the slides, the information, and the case that I just showed you, without any doubt, our industry is actually demonstrating this resilience. So I would say that the future is bright. However, collaboration is the key to success. Because based on our research finding from the systematic review of past 20 years, we will see that government, academia, and the industry, they doing their stuff separately. So very few studies says that the researchers, the government, and the industry, they work together to build a workable, feasible strategy. So I would say that because COVID-19 is really the influence is unseen in the past, in the history, we need to collaborate more in the future, instead of like doing just our own stuff. The academia need to conduct the research projects for the governments. The government need to help the industry. The industry need to provide data to the academia, so we can create win-win-win situation in COVID-19 era. All right, so this is my final slides. I hope this slide can inspire you as well. I'm not sure the situation in Sri Lanka now, but I love this saying from Africa a lot. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to go far, work together. So, so collaboration. Okay. Sorry, I experienced some unstable internet connection here, and I hope my presentation still can provide some new information to you. All right, I think this is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if you have.